The arrival of shadows. The silence of space was broken by the emergence of shadows. Massive vessels, sleek and predatory, slipped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. These were ships of the Zaphirian Empire, and they had come to claim another world. Commander Alara Vex stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominator, her scaled hands clasped behind her back. Her reptilian features remained impassive as she studied the small blue planet displayed on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful, almost insignificant compared to the mighty worlds of the Zaphirian Empire. Her yellow eyes, adapted for seeing in multiple spectrums, scanned the data flowing across her command console. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 worlds. "The primitive inhabitants call themselves humans," reported her tactical officer, Commander Thane. "Our long-range scans show they have achieved basic spaceflight, but their technology appears centuries behind ours. They have a few satellites and what appears to be a small research station." Alara nodded, though something felt different about this assignment. Usually, when the Empire discovered a new species, there were signs of advanced technology or valuable resources that justify conquest. Earth seemed to offer neither. "Their military capabilities?" she asked. "Primitive projectile weapons, crude aircraft, and divided into hundreds of separate nations. They appear to spend most of their time fighting amongst themselves." Thane replied with obvious disdain. Admiral Crix Thorvin, the overall fleet commander, spoke from his position near the strategic display. His massive frame, typical of high-ranking Zaphirians, cast a long shadow across the bridge. "This should be a simple operation. Standard protocol. Demonstrate our superiority, demand surrender, install a puppet government, and extract resources." Alara felt a familiar unease. The Empire's expansion had brought them into contact with dozens of species, but lately she had begun questioning the necessity of such aggressive tactics. However, orders were orders, and the Empire's hunger for new territories seemed insatiable. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we're detecting increased activity on the planet's surface. Multiple communication networks are active, and there appears to be significant movement of their military forces." "They've detected us," Admiral Thorvin observed. "Predictable. Begin the approach. Target their space station and 3 of their largest military installations. Nothing too destructive, just enough to demonstrate our capabilities." As the Zaphirian fleet moved deeper into the solar system, something extraordinary was happening on Earth. In a hidden complex beneath the Colorado Mountains, Captain Sarah Chen received the alert she had been preparing for her entire career. Sarah stood before a massive display showing the approaching alien fleet. Her calm demeanor belied the storm of activity around her as technicians and military personnel rushed to implement protocols that had been decades in the making. At 38, she had dedicated her life to a program most of the world didn't even know existed. "Project Nightfall is now active," she announced to the assembled team. "All teams, report status." Dr. Marcus Webb, the brilliant physicist whose theoretical work had made their defenses possible, stepped forward. "The quantum dry systems are online and ready. All 3 ships have passed their final diagnostics." "Stealth systems?" Sarah asked. "Functioning at 100% efficiency. The alien sensors won't detect us until we want them to," replied Lieutenant James Park, one of their youngest and most talented pilots. Sarah allowed herself a moment to appreciate the irony. While the world above believed humanity was defenseless against an alien invasion, they had been preparing for exactly this scenario for over 30 years. The secret began in 1995, when a damaged alien scout ship had crashed in the Siberian wilderness. Instead of announcing the discovery, a coalition of Earth's most powerful nations had formed a secret alliance. They had reverse-engineered the alien technology, improved upon it, and built something the aliens would never expect. 3 warships, hidden on the dark side of the moon, equipped with technology that would make the Zaphirians question everything they thought they knew about humanity. "Captain," her communications officer interrupted, "the aliens are broadcasting on all frequencies." The transmission filled the command center. Admiral Thorvin's imposing figure appeared on screen, his voice deep and commanding. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Crix Thorvin of the Zaphirian Empire. Your world now falls under our protection. You will cease all military activities, dissolve your governments, and prepare to receive our administrative personnel. You have 48 hours to comply or face the consequences of resistance." Sarah watched as news networks around the world erupted into chaos. World leaders were being rushed to secure locations, and emergency sessions were being called in every major capital. To the outside world, it appeared that humanity was facing its darkest hour. But Sarah knew better. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly, "are our diplomatic channels ready?" "Yes, Captain. We can establish communication with the alien fleet whenever you're ready." Sarah nodded. The plan was delicate. They needed to appear cooperative while secretly maneuvering their forces into position. Humanity's survival depended on the aliens underestimating them for just a little while longer. "Open a channel to Admiral Thorvin," she ordered. The alien commander's image appeared on their secure screen. Sarah had studied Zaphirian psychology for years, learning everything they could from the crashed scout ships' databases. "Admiral Thorvin, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Coalition. We wish to discuss the terms of your protection." Thorvin's scaled features showed amusement. "You are wise to recognize the futility of resistance, human. We will begin by demonstrating our capabilities. Your space station and several military installations will be destroyed as a show of good faith." Sarah's expression remained neutral, though her heart rate increased. They had evacuated the space station hours ago, and the military bases Thorvin was targeting were mostly empty decoy facilities. Still, any loss of life was tragic. "We understand your position, Admiral. However, I request a meeting to discuss the transition process. Perhaps you would be willing to send a delegation to discuss terms." Thorvin considered this. "Very well. We will send a shuttle to your planet's surface. Choose a suitable location for negotiation." "Thank you, Admiral. I believe we can reach an agreement that benefits both our species." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her team. The first phase of their plan was working. The aliens believed they were dealing with a compliant, defeated species. They had no idea that humanity's true response was already in motion. "Lieutenant Park," she said, "prepare the Prometheus for launch. Dr. Webb, begin the final power-up sequence for our primary weapon systems." "Captain," Dr. Webb said quietly, "are you certain about this? Once we reveal our capabilities, there's no going back." Sarah looked at the display showing Earth, her blue marble home floating in the vast darkness of space. Somewhere up there, alien warships were preparing to destroy humanity's future. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated the species that had evolved by turning every disadvantage into a strength. "Doctor, we've spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to survive. Today, we don't just survive. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth is not a world to be conquered." Commander Alara Vex watched from her position on the Dominator as the human delegation prepared to meet with their representatives. Something about the human captain's demeanor had struck her as unusual. Most species, when faced with the Empire's might, showed clear signs of fear or desperation. This human had shown neither. "Commander," her sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the far side of their moon." "What kind of readings?" Alara asked, moving to examine the data herself. "It's difficult to identify. The signatures are very faint, almost as if they're being masked by something." Alara frowned. In her experience, primitive species didn't possess the technology to mask energy signatures. "Continue monitoring. Report any changes immediately." As the Zaphirian shuttle descended toward Earth's surface, carrying diplomats who expected to negotiate a simple surrender. None of them realized that they were about to encounter something unprecedented in the Empire's long history of conquest. Hidden in the shadow of Luna, the human warship Prometheus completed its final systems check. Captain Sarah Chin's voice echoed through the ship's corridors as she addressed her crew. Today, we write a new chapter in human history. For too long, we've looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. Now we know we're not, and we also know that not everyone out there comes in peace. But we are ready. We have prepared. And we will show them that humanity is not to be underestimated. The Prometheus began to move, its revolutionary engines propelling it silently through space. Behind it, two more ships, the Defiance and the Resolution, prepared to follow. The age of human expansion into the galaxy was about to begin, but first, they had to prove they deserved their place among the stars. The battle for Earth's future was about to commence, and the Zaphirian Empire was about to learn that some prey animals, when cornered, revealed themselves to be apex predators. The storm unleashed. The diplomatic meeting on Earth's surface was proceeding exactly as Admiral Thorvin had expected. The human representatives seemed appropriately cowed by the display of Zaphirian military might. 3 of their military installations had been reduced to smoldering craters, and their primitive space station was nothing but debris floating in orbit. Commander Alara Vex observed the negotiations from the bridge of the Dominator, but her attention kept drifting to the sensor readings. The strange energy signatures from the moon's far side were growing stronger, and her instincts, honed by years of combat, were telling her something was wrong. "Admiral," she called out, "I recommend we maintain high alert status. These humans may be more resourceful than they appear." Admiral Thorvin barely glanced up from the diplomatic feeds. "Commander, you worry too much. Look at their representatives. They're practically begging for mercy. This will be over within hours." But Alara's concerns proved justified when her sensor operator suddenly straightened at his console. "Commander, large energy signature detected emerging from behind their moon. Configuration unknown, but the power readings are significant." On the main display, a sleek vessel appeared, unlike anything in the Zaphirian database. The ship was roughly 2 kilometers long, its hull a matte black that seemed to absorb sensor scans. Strange geometries along its surface suggested technology far beyond what they had expected from humanity. "What is that?" Admiral Thorvin demanded, his confidence evaporating. Before anyone could answer, the human ship opened communications. Captain Sarah Chin's image appeared on their screen, but she was no longer aboard Earth. She stood on what was clearly a military bridge, surrounded by sophisticated technology. "Admiral Thorvin." Sarah's voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. You seem to think Earth is defenseless." "Impossible," Thorvin snarled. "Our intelligence shows your species has barely achieved primitive spaceflight." Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Your intelligence was based on what we chose to let you see. Humanity learned long ago that the best defense often appears to be no defense at all." As if to emphasize her point, 2 more ships emerged from behind the moon. Each was unique in design but clearly built with the same advanced technology as the first. 37 years ago," Sarah continued, "one of your scout ships crashed on our world. Instead of announcing first contact, we chose to study your technology in secret. We learned, we adapted, and we improved. What you're seeing now is the result of nearly 4 decades of preparation." Commander Alara found herself impressed despite the situation. "You've been planning for this encounter for decades." "Not just planning," Sarah replied. "We've been preparing for the day when someone would try to conquer Earth. We hoped it would never come, but we're ready nonetheless." Admiral Thorvin's scales flushed a deeper color, indicating rising anger. 3 ships against my entire fleet. You cannot hope to victory with such odds." "Admiral," Dr. Marcus Webb's voice joined the conversation as he appeared beside Sarah. "You're thinking in terms of conventional warfare, but humanity has never been conventional. The Prometheus suddenly accelerated, moving far faster than Zaphirian sensors had detected it was capable of. In seconds, it had covered the distance between the Moon and the main Zaphirian fleet, positioning itself directly between the alien ships and Earth. "Impossible acceleration," breathed the Zaphirian tactical officer. "How are they moving that fast?" Lieutenant James Park's voice came over the communication channel from his position as the Prometheus's chief pilot. "We call it quantum tunneling propulsion. We borrowed the concept from your crashed ship, but made some improvements. We can essentially skip through space-time itself." Admiral Thorvin ordered his fleet to open fire, but the human ship seemed to dance between the energy blasts. Its movements were precise, calculated, as if it knew exactly where each shot would be fired before the Zaphirians themselves did. "Their defensive capabilities are beyond our projections," Alara reported, watching her tactical displays with growing concern. "They're not just evading our weapons, they're predicting them." Sarah's voice came through clearly despite the chaos of battle. "Admiral Thorvin, we've been studying your technology for nearly 4 decades. We know your weapon systems better than most of your own crew. Every shot you fire, we saw coming before you pulled the trigger." The Prometheus returned fire with a weapon the Zaphirians had never encountered. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, it fired concentrated gravitational waves that caused 2 Zaphirian destroyers to simply collapse in upon themselves, their hulls crushed by the sudden increase in gravitational force. "By the void," whispered Admiral Thorvin. "What kind of weapon is that?" Dr. Webb answered with evident pride in his voice. "We call it a gravity lance. Your crashed ship's computer core contained theoretical data about gravitational manipulation. It took us 20 years to make it practical, but I think you'll agree the results are impressive." The remaining human ships joined the battle, each employing tactics that defied Zaphirian understanding of space combat. The Defiance seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing behind enemy ships to strike at their engines before vanishing again. The Resolution deployed what appeared to be autonomous drones that moved with impossible precision, targeting specific systems on Zaphirian vessels. Commander Alara found herself facing a tactical situation unlike anything in her military experience. "Admiral, we need to withdraw and reassess. We're facing technology we don't understand, tactics we've never encountered." "The Zaphirian Empire does not retreat," Thorvin bellowed, but even he could see that his fleet was being systematically dismantled by 3 human ships. Captain Sarah Chen's voice cut through the chaos once more. "Admiral, Commander Alara, I'm opening a direct channel between our ships. I think it's time we had an honest conversation." A moment later, Sarah appeared on a split screen alongside Commander Alara. The human captain studied the Zaphirian commander with intelligent eyes. "Commander Alara," Sarah said, "I've been monitoring your communications. You've been questioning this attack from the beginning, haven't you?" Alara was surprised by the directness of the question. "How did you?" "We've been listening to your transmissions since you entered our solar system. Your translation protocols have some vulnerabilities we learned to exploit decades ago." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "You don't believe in conquest for its own sake, do you?" The question struck at something Alara had been struggling with for years. "The Empire's expansion has brought order to many worlds," she said, but her words lacked conviction. "At what cost?" Sarah asked. "How many civilizations have been destroyed? How many species have lost their independence?" Before Alara could answer, Admiral Thorvin's voice boomed across the channel. "Commander Vex, you will not engage in philosophical discussions with the enemy." Sarah turned her attention to the Admiral. "Admiral Thorvin, your fleet is defeated. You've lost 12 ships, and we haven't even deployed our full capabilities yet. I'm offering you a choice. Withdraw now and carry word back to your empire that Earth is not available for conquest, or continue this battle and face complete destruction. You dare threaten the Zaphirian Empire." Thorvin raged. "I'm not threatening anyone," Sarah replied calmly. "I'm stating facts. Your empire has built itself on the assumption that superior technology equals inevitable victory. But technology without wisdom is just expensive tools in the hands of fools. Dr. Webb joined the conversation. Admiral, we've analyzed your society's development. You've conquered so many worlds that you've stopped innovating. You've become dependent on subjugating others rather than improving yourselves. Lieutenant Park's voice added, meanwhile, humanity has spent centuries fighting each other, pushing technology forward through necessity. We've learned to turn every disadvantage into an advantage, every defeat into a lesson. Commander Elara found herself nodding unconsciously. The humans were right. The Empire had become stagnant, relying on past victories rather than continued growth. Admiral, she said quietly, perhaps we should consider their offer. Thorvin's scales flushed an even deeper color. Commander Vex, you forget yourself. No, Admiral, Elara replied, her voice growing stronger. I remember myself. I remember why I joined the military, to protect my people, not to conquer innocence. Sarah watched the exchange with interest. Commander Elara, what would happen if you returned to your empire with word that a species had successfully defended itself against your fleet? It would be unprecedented, Elara admitted. The council would demand a full report. They would want to understand how it happened. And that could be the beginning of change, Sarah suggested. Your empire doesn't have to be built on conquest. There are other ways to expand, to grow, to ensure the survival and prosperity of your people. Admiral Thorvin started to object, but Elara cut him off. Admiral, we've lost this battle, but perhaps we found something more valuable than another conquered world. Perhaps we found a teacher. The human captain smiled. Commander, I think that's the beginning of wisdom. As the two fleets faced each other in the darkness of space, a new understanding began to form. The Zaphirian Empire would return home not with news of conquest, but with questions about their future. And humanity would take its first step onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as defenders of the right of all species to determine their own destiny. The battle was over, but the real journey was just beginning.